everyone, welcome back to my channel. So as the title says here, I'm going to be doing 20 book recommendations based on the 20 songs that are on BTS's new album, Map of the Soul 7. Now I am a new ARMY baby, but I have just fallen down the rabbit hole with this group. I love them with all my heart, and I'm so happy to be doing this video with a bunch of other booktubers that also love BTS. So I'm going to have all of their links down below in their videos, so please make sure to watch that as well. Now there are 20 books, so I'm going to have to go through them pretty fast. I won't be able to talk too in depth about each one, but I did think about these books when I was listening to the songs, either because of the themes that are covered in the song or maybe specific lyrics that just really stood out to me. The first song is Persona, and this one is all about identity. Actually, all the songs in this album are really about identity, but Persona in particular is about kind of like your public face, your public persona, compared to who you are on the inside and your struggles with that. And so for that song, I wanted to recommend How Not to Die Alone by Richard Roeper. This is a really heartfelt, funny, kind of a quiet book. It takes place in England, and it's about this guy who has this persona at work where he is very happily married to a very successful lawyer. He has like 3 kids, a beautiful house, but in actuality, he doesn't have any of those things. He lives alone, he's very unhappy, he's struggling a lot, and it just kind of goes through all these like weird things that happen, and he has to kind of grapple with who he is and come to terms with this persona that he's put on at work when a new character comes in, and he ends up really liking this girl. So it's a really funny book, so if you haven't read it, I definitely recommend it. So the next song is Boy With Love featuring Halsey, and if you see the music video, it's a really bright and happy kind of song, and it's all about love and finding love. So for that, I wanted to recommend What If It's Us by Becky Albertalli and Adam Silvera, because I feel like this book is just such a happy book. I don't know. Arthur, one of the main characters here, is just so bubbly and so sweet and kind of like all over the place. He definitely gives me like the vibe of the music video. It's about 2 boys who meet in a post office, and the whole idea of the book is whether it's fated that they are meant to be together or whether they just need to work on it. And is love, you know, a choice? Is it fate? But despite all that, it's just really fun and just like a cute book. So I just wanted to recommend this one. So the next song is Make It Right, and this is like a medium tempo song, and the lyrics of the song really kind of remind me of, I guess, 2 people who are really there to kind of support each other, that have really saved one another and are trying to make life for the other person a lot better and easier. I wanted to recommend Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. Specifically, I think it really hits on like Baz's relationship with Simon. I think Baz really sees that like Simon is the only one that sees him for who he is and is there for him. There's even a line in the song that says like, you are the reason why you saved me from hell, and I think that's really apt for this book, because Baz always feels like he is like cursed and doomed basically, but Simon kind of pulls him out, and they vice versa, they really do support each other and love each other, and I just really love their like hate to lovers like type friendship and romance in this book, so I wanted to pick this one. So the next song is called Jamais Vu, and this is a really sad song if you listen to the lyrics. The chorus just keeps saying, you know, please give me a remedy, a remedy. There's lines in the song that says like, would it be easier if I just turned everything off? And it's just a really like heart-wrenching song, and for this one I wanted to recommend We Contain Multitudes. Now this starts off really cute, but it does kind of take a really dark turn, and it just kind of, it's like really gut-wrenching. This is a epistolary novel, so it's written all in letters back and forth between 2 characters in high school. One I believe is like a sophomore, one's like a senior. One is a very popular football star, another one is an openly gay person at school. He's also just kind of weird. He's kind of like a hipster, kind of a loner. He's obsessed with Walt Whitman, which is why the title is We Contain Multitudes. And this kind of journeys through their friendship and then eventual romance. I feel like the desperation of the song and just the cry that goes on in this chorus really represents our character Joe here. He just goes through a lot, and it's just impossible for you not to feel for him, so I definitely recommend this book. I really loved it. So the next song is called Dionysus, and this song really sounds like just like a party song, like all about drinking, but it definitely has a deeper meaning. So when you say the word sur in Korean, sur is alcohol, but it also can mean art. So like 예술 is art, 미술 is art. I think the song is more about like getting really drunk and on art and falling it so passionately and so deep into your art that you feel almost drunk on it. And so for this song, I wanted to recommend I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson. This is like a YA classic. I absolutely love this book so much. I'm still shocked when I see people that haven't read it because it's so amazing. It's about two twins, and one of the twins is, well, they're both actually art students, I guess, but one of the twins is, I guess, extra talented. He was always expected to be the one that kind of goes to a really prestigious art school and things like that, Noah. And there are scenes in this book where he is just drawing, or he's like really immersed in his art, and he almost feels like drunk on it, just the way it's written. And you can feel both of their passion for art so deeply in this book that I just highly, highly recommend it. I think it fits perfectly with the song. So the next song is Interlude Shadow, and this is Min Yoongi or Suga's solo track, and he is known to talk a lot about mental health, and this song is no different. Talks about how he wants to be a rap star, he wants to be a king, he wants to be a rock star, but at the same time, as he's climbing those steps and becoming more and more like this, his shadows are growing, and the pressure to perform, or the pressure to be this idol or this artist is growing more and more, and it kind of weighs down on him, and he's struggling a lot with that. So at the end of the song, it talks a lot about fighting yourself, but also acknowledging the shadows that you live with that are in you, because it does make up who you are. And for that, I wanted to recommend Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. Now, this book is one of my favorite John Green books ever, because the main character struggles so much with OCD and anxiety, and sometimes it's just overwhelming her and it consumes her, just like the song where Suga feels like all these shadows are just like building on top of him and burying him. Almost the way that the anxiety is written, the way that OCD is written in this book is just really heart-wrenching and really, really impactful, that it definitely reminds me of this. It almost feels like that tornado of emotions and tornadoes of mental health and healing that our main character has to go through to accept it of herself. Now, the plot is kind of silly, but the mental health rep and the diversity is so amazing in this book. Next song is Black Swan, and in this song, BTS talks a lot about the fear of losing their passion and love for music, and it's very frightening to them. They kind of feel like they're just being pulled along, and it's just a very, very sad and kind of complex song. And for this one, I wanted to recommend Fireborn by Rosaria Munda. In this book, we have two main characters, Lee and Annie, and in this world, there has been a really, really violent and brutal rebellion. So now there's a new government regime that's in place, and these two are kind of rising up in that government as dragon riders, which are kind of like the only line of defense, I guess. It's like their army for this world. And these two come from very different worlds, but Lee, one of the main characters here, has always dreamed of being a dragon rider. Dragon riders were always part of the aristocratic class privilege, and he is actually secretly part of that family line. Everyone thinks everyone in that family line has died, but he somehow survived. And there's a lot of things that happen in this book that make him question whether or not this is really the right thing for him to do, really where he needs to be. There's a lot of self exploration and struggles that he goes through for both Lee and Annie, and I think just that internal character development, the internal monologues that go on in this book, and their relationship with one another as well, it's just so complex. It's so good, so suspenseful. So I feel like the tone of Black Swan is the tone of Fireborn. It's serious, but it's also like heart-pounding. Such a good book. So the next song is Filter by Jimin, and this is like his solo track. And this song in some ways just sounds really fun, but I do think it does have a deeper meaning. Jimin is talking about how he can apply different filters to himself and change how he is perceived, and how he does this to kind of, I guess, please his fans. We all know Jimin has an amazing duality to him. In one way, he can be this cutest little mochi baby, so cute and so adorable. And then when he's performing, he just has this crazy, sexy, alluring charisma to himself that you just can't look away. And it just doesn't even seem like it's the same person. And I think Jimin is very, very well aware of that fact. But also, we do know that he has dealt with a lot of mental health issues in the past, dealing with this kind of pressure, feeling like he needs to always change who he is to please fans. So for this book, I actually knew right away what I wanted to recommend, and it's Docile. Now this comes out in March, and full disclosure, I am like 85% done, so I'm not completely done with the book, but I absolutely love it. This one also talks a lot about changing who you are to please someone. In this world, it's kind of like a speculative fiction. People who are in debt can actually sell themselves or sell their debt, or pay off their debt rather, by being pretty much like a slave to another person. There's a drug called Docile that kind of removes all of their willpower. But in this book, Elisha decides to sell off his debt to this guy named Alex, and Alex's family is actually the one that created Docile, and Elisha refuses to take Docile. So even though he refuses to take Docile, you can see him change so much and change the way he is to please Alex. He really believes that he's in love with Alex. Alex does believe that he's in love with Elisha too as well. But at the same time, are they really in love when Elisha has had to change so much of who he is to please Alex and to cater to all of Alex's wishes? And does Alex really love Elisha for who he is when Elisha has changed so much to please him? So there's a lot that goes on about identity of who you are as a person, a lot about consent, and I think it just fits really perfectly with like the more serious meanings behind Filter. But it's such an amazing book. Put this on your radar, pre-order it if you can. It's amazing. The next song is called My Time, and this is Jungkook's solo track. And in this song, you know, he's just talking about having had to grow up as a BTS member, where he is living this really fast lifestyle, and he sees all his other peers his age living a completely different life, and he kind of feels like, did I miss out on certain things? Am I really living my life? Is this really my time? And trying to find his way, I guess. Shicha can be my time, but Shicha also means time zones or time difference. So it's a lot of that kind of confusion. So for this book, I wanted to recommend The Cruel Prince, mainly from Cardin's point of view. Cardin is the Prince of Fairy, and he is the youngest prince, and all his peers are kind of looking up to him, and at the same time, you realize that as you read this book that Cardin is actually a very lost boy. He's just a kid kind of, and he doesn't really know what he wants and what his dreams are, what his aspirations are. He's just kind of living this fast lifestyle, doing what he thinks he needs to do, but at the same time you get the sense that he really questions who he is as a person. And Jude is definitely someone that challenges him and makes him question himself and reveals a lot of his vulnerabilities. So I just want to recommend this. I love the Cruel Prince series. I haven't read Queen of Nothing yet, but I really loved Cruel Prince and The Wicked King. I think it's just a really fun fantasy book. And so yeah, this is my recommendation. Okay, so the next song is Louder Than Bombs, and this is a very, very heavy song. It covers everything from personal tragedies to looking at tragedies around the world, and just how loud those can be and how overwhelming they can be. And BTS is just singing that they are there for them and they want to make it a better place, you know, whether it's a better place for an individual person or a better place for this world through their charities maybe. It's just a very moving but also very intense song. So I wanted to recommend Recursion by Blake Crouch. Now this is kind of like a time travel science fiction book. In this book there is something called false memory syndrome. Someone has created this technology where you can change your memories, I guess, and by changing your memories you end up changing the future. So a lot of these have very negative consequences for the individual person, but as the story progresses you see those like individual consequences become bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you see consequences that affect the entire world. So the stakes definitely get higher and higher and higher, and this one is kind of like a sci-fi thriller, so it gets really intense. It's very fast-paced and it's just really exciting, but it's also really, really scary, and it's also really intense. And I just really loved this book. This was kind of my first, I guess, real adult science fiction that I read, and I didn't think I was going to like it, but I really loved it. And the main character here, Helen, and what's the guy's name? Bob or something like that? Barry. Barry and Helen, they kind of team up together, and you see them constantly trying to right the wrongs that false memory syndrome has caused. to horrendous consequences each time, and it's just very heartbreaking, especially towards the end. But through all of this and through all of their sacrifice and all of their efforts, they really are just trying to make the world a better place, and they're doing it for the good of the people, I guess. And so the next song is On, their title track, and this song is so full of grit and determination. It's all about BTS really wanting to overcome their struggles and accepting it and going for their dreams no matter what it takes. So the chorus says, 가져와, bring the pain. So 가져와 means like bring it, and 올라타, bring the pain. 올라타 means kind of like climb up with me or ride with me. And I think it's acknowledging that the fight is going to be really hard, but really wanting to go for it anyway. So for that song, I wanted to recommend Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. This one is all about Spencer, who dreams of being a pilot. It takes place in space. It's a sci-fi. It's a very militaristic society where the pilots are pretty much the only line of defense against this enemy that's in the sky that is constantly attacking them. And Spencer dreams of being a pilot so bad, but she also has to deal with a lot of shadows surrounding her family and her legacy. Her dad was a very famous pilot who was deemed a coward, and that is like horrible in this society. Even through that, she just is so determined to do what's right. She's so determined to be a pilot. It's just a really fast-paced and just really, really fun book, so I highly recommend it. Okay, I'm losing light, so I have to hurry. The next song is called and is like in Korean it's uk, and uk is an expression that kind of is used as a verb to explain someone who just like lost their temper really fast. And this song is the rap line song, and it's responding to a lot of the hate that they see online with anger. So for this song, I want to recommend The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. If you have not heard of this book, where have you been? It's an amazing book. It does talk a lot about the Black Lives Matter movement, the treatment that a lot of black men face when dealing with police brutality and injustice. And in this book, I think it really represents the song because Star in the beginning, she feels very withdrawn, and she's just kind of like trying to hide a lot of what she feels. But as the story progresses, she really finds her voice and decides to stand up for the injustice that has happened to her cousin, to her community, and that justified anger seems to really reflect like the tone of the song Hi everyone, editing Sue here. I forgot to recommend a book for one of the songs. I had a feeling I was going to forget about this song just because I don't have the physical book with me. Even though I actually really, really love this song. It might be one of my very favorite songs that they've ever come out with. And it's 0 O'Clock. And it just talks a lot about, just having a really crappy day and everything's gone wrong, or maybe it's even more serious than that. Like you have anxiety or depression and you're just laying in bed and you see the time and it's become midnight. And even though nothing in your life has changed, the fact that the day has reset almost gives you like this hope for, a better day. And there's a line in the song that says, and you're gonna be happy now. And they just repeat this over and over again. And it's just such a moving song and I love it so much, but it's also kind of a quiet song. So the book I wanted to recommend for this one is We Are Okay by Nina LaCour. It's a very short book. I really do need to pick it up one of these days. And it just talks about someone who is trying to overcome their grief, trying to overcome some of their anxieties over the future about who they are. And it's such a beautiful book. It's set in like the winter time in a dorm. Someone just doesn't want to go home, so she's just kind of spending the holidays in her dorm by herself, and her friend slash ex-girlfriend-ish, they have kind of a really complicated relationship, comes to visit her, and it's just them kind of reestablishing their friendship. And it's really just like an internal struggle type book, but it's a very quiet book, and it's also very beautifully written. The way Nina LaCour writes about human emotion and just all the feelings this character is going through, it's just done in such a quiet but really impactful and beautiful way, and I think it just fits the song really well. So that's my recommendation for 0 O'Clock. The next song is called Inner Child, and this is V's solo track, and this is a lot about him kind of reconnecting with his inner child. For this one, I kind of chose more of the tone and the feeling of the song, something that kind of made me feel really hopeful and kind of happy and joyful. And so for this song, I wanted to recommend Nevermore, the Trials of Morgan Crow. So this is a middle grade fantasy book that's really full of whimsy and just a lot of fun, but it doesn't start off that way. So Morgan Crow is known to be cursed to bring bad luck in her town, and so because of this, she is very withdrawn. She is very quiet, and she's just very, very, very unhappy. That is until her 11th birthday, when Captain Juniper comes and takes her to the land of Nevermore, and there she sees a lot of fun and interesting things, and for the first time you kind of see her enjoying her life, you know, and making friends and just having a lot of hope for the future. And I think that that kind of tone represents the song Inner Child. So the next song is 친구, or friend, and this is V's and Jimin's friendship song. And we know that they're best friends, but from the song you get the sense that they have overcome a lot of hurdles and struggles in their relationship. I think they've mentioned many times that they're very different people, so they really had to learn to kind of be friends, and they're at a place where they are best friends. But there is a line in the song that says, in one way you're my best friend, another way you're kind of like my enemy. And for this, I wanted to recommend Uprooted by Naomi Novik. This is a standalone fantasy. It's actually one of my favorite books ever. So apart from the magic and the romance, the friendship in here is just amazing. Agnieszka and Kasia go through so much together. They grew up together, they were best friends, they were always together, but even though they were always together all the time and seemed to rely on each other so much, they each kind of harbored their own type of resentment towards one another, and that kind of comes to light later when, through a lot of healing, a lot of magic, and in the end it makes them stronger. So I think this is definitely one of the books that has one of the best female friendships, or just friendships in general, and it's just an amazing book. And the next song is Moon, and this is Jin's solo track, and this is kind of Jin's love letter to the BTS army, and how the BTS army is like the earth and Jin is the moon that orbits the earth, and how he'll always be there for them, and the earth has always supported him, and just how they both really need each other and love each other, and it's just kind of like his thank you song to the army. It's such an amazing song. I love it so much. But for this, I definitely had something in mind, and that is When the Moon Was Ours by Anna Marie McLemore. And I am actually not a really huge fan of Anna Marie. I just don't really jive well with their writing, I guess, but this is one of my favorite books that they've ever written. And in this story, Sam and Miel are like best friends. It's very magical realism. Miel grows like roses from her wrists, and she goes through a lot and she struggles a lot, but Sam is always there for her. And one thing that he does for her a lot is he makes these like moons out of paper, and he hangs them outside like on trees. Whenever Miel sees these moons that Sam has hung for her, she feels really comforted and loved, and I think that's just a beautiful sentiment. And their friendship is just so amazing, and how much they rely on each other and how much they love each other, that I thought just the whole feel of the song and the imagery of the song and the imagery that's in this book is just, it's perfect. The next song is Respect, and this is RM and Suga's song. It's just like a very fun, groovy kind of song, but it talks a lot about respect and what does respect mean. Is it admiration? Is it adoration? And also how people just kind of throw around the word respect without really realizing what it means, and they're just kind of saying it. So for this one, I kind of picked one that is kind of interesting, and it's Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, and I can imagine like Kaz Brecker and Jesper like talking about respect. You know, Kaz definitely has a lot of people who fear him, but also respect him, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that kind of say that they respect him but would turn their back on him really fast, would betray him really fast for the right amount of money. And I could just see them kind of tossing around this word like respect, like what does that mean? And I don't know, I just felt like it fit the tone of this book really well. So I don't really need to say much about Six of Crows. If you haven't heard about it, it's an amazing book. I love it. It's the first in a duology, following a cast of characters, all of who are very morally gray, and Kaz is kind of like the leader of the Crow gang. The next song is We Are Bulletproof, The Eternal, and this is like an epic anthem song that just kind of concludes We Are Eternal Part 1 and Part 2. It's just an amazing conclusion song, also a very big thank you song to the ARMY, and just how BTS and BTS ARMY are just they're together all the time. They walk together, they fought together, they struggle together, and they are better because of the army and vice versa. I just love this song so much, and it's such an epic song that I had to pick Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, which is the last book in the Harry Potter series. I just feel like I could hear We Are Bulletproof probably during like the Battle of Hogwarts and the end of the battle, where they're just like kind of coming together and grouping together and starting over for a new future. And really, I feel like any like epic series, like the last book would be perfect for We Are Bulletproof, the Eternal. The next song is the outro song, Ego. And for this one I picked, it's a really fun song, really poppy song, and this one really reminds me of Red, White, and Royal Blue. Again, this whole album has been talking about identity and persona, and both of these characters are really influential people. One's the first son, one's the Prince of England, and it's kind of they're accepting their true identities and going forward with those, even though they've struggled, even though they've hid parts of themselves. It's kind of accepting everything about themselves and stepping out into the public, stepping out into the future, stepping out for a happier self, I guess. And I just love this book so much. It's so fun. It goes so much deeper than just the romance, I think. It definitely talks a lot about accepting who you are as a person. They really are making their own way. That's one of the lines in the song. And yeah, it's just a very inspirational book. I really, really love it. And the last song on this album is On featuring Sia. So this was really hard to pick because we've already talked about On and Sia version. It's not too different, so I decided to pick another one that has a character that's also full of grit and determination. So my book recommendation is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. If there is any character that has gone through so much crap, but is still filled with so much determination, so much passion for art, for learning, for magic, it is Kvothe. This character is so amazing. This book is gigantic. It is a tome, definitely, but just the hurdles he goes through, this character development that he goes through, his character arc, it's just amazing. I cannot say enough about this book. It's just so, so good. There's no other book better to represent On, because Kvothe is someone who, despite his struggles and despite the losses and the tragic losses he's had, he is so determined to learn. You know, he's so determined to be better. And so good, so good. And if you have a hard time reading it, because I did have a really hard time in the beginning reading it, try it on audiobook. It's so amazing. The narrator is really, really amazing. So I highly recommend this. Can't say enough. I don't know when the third book is going to come out. I do have the second. I have not read it because the third book has not been announced. So yeah, such a good book. The sun is fading, so it's probably a lot darker in my video. But thank you so much for watching. If you're still here, it's 20 book recommendations. I don't think I had to really go through what all the songs meant either, but I wanted to make the book recommendations make sense. So hopefully this isn't too long. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!